There's interesting ideas that you can do with blockchain around interoperability, which gives people that own a cyberpunk, for example, the ability to actually use it and do something with it and bring it into a game or do something. So there are, ideas that we're thinking around that as well, which could be quite interesting.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hashing It Out. I'm your host, Becky Liggero, and today I am here with Lloyd Purser. He's the COO of FunFair Technologies. Lloyd, it's awesome to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I feel like you're one of our go-to guys in the online gambling space, especially when it comes to blockchain technology and how the online gambling world can use it. But I do know that FunFair Technologies in general is involved in some other areas too, especially in regards to blockchain. So before we kick off our conversation here, can you just describe to our audience how FunFair Technologies is operating at the intersection of gaming and blockchain specifically?
Sure, yeah. So for those who don't know, FunFair Technologies started probably about 4 years ago now, building a blockchain casino platform on Ethereum. We've been through, I suppose, various changes since then. And since February this year, when we really exited that part of the business, we started looking at research and development into different ideas that we had of using blockchain technology really to solve problems and to offer customers great experiences. One of the key things we were looking at is NFTs. We have a lot of experience in the gaming world as well. In fact, most of our studio have actually come from more video game development rather than gambling. So, we looked at ideas that we had around that. We looked at things that were happening in the market, and we decided to build a racing game that uses NFTs. It has its own economy. It's still we're still in the conceptual phases at the moment. We've done our proof of concept, but we're looking at the more tying down the specifics around things like, who the customers will be, what geographies. We're looking at, the specifics around the in-game economy, how things work. But what we do know is that we'll be, it's a racing game where players can compete against each other and they buy, earn NFTs either through buying them in the marketplace or through playing the game. They can earn NFTs. And these NFTs make up the cars, which give the cars different types of powers, speed, weapons, etc. And it's a game where you will race other people, and the idea is to win basically, and use your NFTs to win the race. So it's kind of taking traditional concepts, but with the addition of NFTs and the addition of blockchain technology into the game. Which is something that we generally try and do, is build mass market products using blockchain.
Awesome, I love it, Lloyd. And over in the BSV blockchain world, we keep talking about how the buzz about NFTs is, digital art, selling a piece of art for 60 million or whatever it is. And I think it's really cool to hear that you are using NFTs in the way that you are. I think there's a really big opportunity in the gaming world, especially with video games using weapons, just like you said. That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
It's been like that for years, really, in the gaming world. I think NFTs for us are the clearest use case. I think that we see within our skill set, right? It's the biggest use case that we see in that, players can play and or just buy things that have value and have utility in a game. There's interesting ideas as well, though, for us is to look at, okay, well, if you happen to own a cyberpunk or a Bored Ape or any of these other types of, let's call them collectibles or art, are there opportunities to bring those and use this idea of interoperability, that you can actually take a punk that you own and bring it into the game, and maybe that will give your car or whatever different properties and different values as well. So we're looking at how do we actually add utility to other NFTs that might not be our own, for example. So there's interesting ideas that you can do with blockchain around interoperability, which gives people that own a cyberpunk, for example, the ability to actually use it and do something with it and bring it into a game or do something. So there are, ideas that we're thinking around that as well, which could be quite interesting.
Yeah, really cool. And what I also love is that your founder, Jez San, who I think he actually has an OBE in video game gambling. So I can't remember.
Yes.
He invented the 3D chip for Nintendo. I know that. So he's really quite big in the gaming space. But he also founded an online poker company, PKR. And so he's got experience in both industries, the online gambling world and the gaming world. And I know that you were speaking at IGB Live, which is an online gambling event, where I was supposed to be moderating our panel, but the Dutch authorities had other plans for me, I guess. But what I wanted to know from you, Lloyd, is when you were there, what was the reaction to what you were talking about in your panel with Nikhil? I know you guys were talking about NFTs and responsible gambling, all sorts of things. The online gambling industry's been hearing a lot about blockchain, but it hasn't quite taken off. So the whole point of the panel was, is this the second wave? Is it taking off? What was your reaction to how things went there?
I think it went well. I think it's always quite difficult on these types of panels because you don't know in advance the knowledge set of the audience. So it's all, and sometimes you're trying to explain what I suppose are complex or alien ideas to people that maybe don't like. Just explaining the difference between a fungible and a non-fungible asset. Basically, we have to start with that because everyone talks about NFTs, but I think some people might put their hand up and say, what is an NFT? Because they don't actually know.
Just the buzzword, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always hard to gauge the audience, but we had some great questions. It was a really informal session, and I think we touched on what myself and Nick felt are the key potential uses for blockchain in gambling, and yeah, we focused mainly around NFTs and responsible gambling.
Yeah, that's great. And what do you say when people come to you and say, "Oh, which blockchain should I use?" Or, what blockchain are you running on? Or what kind of response do you give them? Because that's quite a popular question.
I suppose the first one would be, why do you need blockchain? Why do you want to use blockchain tech? What's the reasoning behind it? And then I think similarly to the answer that I gave in the panel was really to we started our journey on Ethereum, which is still, from a smart contract point of view, let's say, with more complex transactions happening on blockchain, is still the leader. It still has, the majority of decentralized applications and transactions running through it. And there are further scaling tech, which is, cheaper to run and faster, which has been exploding, especially in Q1 this year. With the likes of Polygon, the likes of, or as they were, Matic, Solana, which has done incredibly well. We've done development on XDAI. We've looked at other things like Optimism. I know that you guys obviously are focused on BSV. Each one of those offers some benefits versus something like Ethereum, but also will also have some consequences, which will normally be down to security and the level of decentralization. So I think, my point was to, when you're looking at that, see what's important to you, and if it's important, if decentralization, security, and all those that's important, then you're going to have a think about it. Whereas if you want something that's really quick and fast, and the decentralized element is less important to you, then there are other options available to you as well. So it's really just looking at what's important to you, and that comes back to that initial question: why do you need blockchain?
Yeah, and I guess even to a certain degree, some people in the online gambling space wouldn't even really need to know what blockchain is being used in the product that they're using, or even if blockchain is being used at all, they don't really need to know this. For example, I'm sure Nick talked about nChain's Kenze, which uses the timestamp server functionality of the BSV blockchain. And this means that the information you're putting into, crucial compliance or to whatever supplier you're working with is permanently stored on the ledger. But as a client of crucial compliance, for example, you don't even really need to know, right? Like, you don't know what database this is running on, or we don't know how our iPhone works. Like, it just works, right? Like, no, I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's still such an early tech that we're all kind of still obsessed by the tech that sits beneath it, which is
The
which is
tribes,
normal,
right?
I think, for where we are. But yeah, I mean, at some point, it will be the game that we're building, the NFT racing game that we're building, the reality is we're not going to be shouting about which blockchain that's onto our users.
Exactly.
That doesn't matter to them. All they care about is that it works, it's fast, it doesn't cost them a ton of cash to run, but also that we have the right level of security for them as well. Because one of the key things within blockchain is the fact that this idea of non-custodial wallets and not taking custody of someone's cryptocurrency, for example. Security is a key part of that as well. So, I think, yes, as the technology matures, the actual chain you're using, database, whatever it is, it becomes less relevant. But for now, yeah, it's still an absolutely key consideration because there's so many differences between them.
Yeah, for sure. And Lloyd, also, I wanted for you to explain why you guys made a bit of a transition with your blockchain at Funfair Technologies from, running an online gambling casino completely on the blockchain to focusing more on gaming with NFTs and all of this. What was it like trying to penetrate that market, and what were some of the challenges that you faced at Funfair when you were doing that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, and it kind of fits into what Nick was talking about with regulation and responsible gambling. We had various regulatory hurdles when we set up our blockchain casino platform, and it was clear that those hurdles weren't going to go away and that they were going to be significant barriers to entry. We were operating on a Curacao license, but our idea was to bring blockchain to the regulated gambling world, and it's very hard to do that because regulators just aren't ready, and that's not saying anything against regulators, but there's just not the way that the platform worked was so completely different to a normal centralized system. It was decentralized. The wallets were all non-custodial. We had no access to customers' funds. There was no remote gaming servers. There was none of the things that regulators are used to regulating, and so it kind of flipped on its head. And I think that was a significant barrier. And fundamentally as well, the technology was a very early stage, and running on running that platform on Ethereum at scale for us wasn't working out financially. And that's when we made a decision to look at this sort of layer 2 technology, which Ethereum's coming out with Ethereum 2. At some point next year, but in the interim as well, looking at other layer 2 scaling tech, which is effectively faster, cheaper blockchains.
Right. Yeah, I think your point about regulators is really important. I think as soon as you say the word blockchain, people associate it with crypto and payments and all of this, and it scares a lot of people away. And I tend to think that it's going to be easier for blockchain to find success in the online gambling world if it's sort of piece by piece, maybe. So you have a responsible gambling solution that you plug into your already existing tech stack, right? And then you're not completely blockchain and you don't have to get the regulator to approve because it's just a technology. They're not going to have a problem with that, I wouldn't think. What do you think about doing things about for the online gambling industry specifically? If there are people that are really looking to get blockchain tech more mainstream in the online gambling space, I mean, how should they do it? It doesn't sound like setting up an entire casino built all on blockchain is the right way to do it now. It's too new. How do you think the best way is to get in there?
Yeah, I think, as you say, it's bit by bit, and I definitely think that the regulatory side and the responsible gambling side is a great place to start, because there are significant benefits around having an open database of activity in real time that can help regulators and players and operators and everybody in the ecosystem to help prevent problem gambling. And I think that's incredibly important. In terms of other things that we did look at around it. Can we do anything with NFTs, with online gambling? And I think there are applications for it. they didn't like smack us around the face, if you know what I mean, kind of go, wow, Eureka, that's the one. We were like, okay, we're kind of like trying to shove a square peg in a round hole right here. Do you know what I mean? And so we I think it will come, but I think it will just take a little bit more time for the application of it to be there. So we feel that, and also having a bigger universe in the gaming world is probably a better place to start. But I think, I think, bit by bit, let's call it incremental introduction of blockchain technology into the online gambling world is probably the best way. We obviously went with a fully fledged, complete system, including affiliates and game development and operators and players and everybody. And it was, it's a much bigger ask for someone to take that on.
Yeah, that's because Jez is a forward thinker and he sees things before others do, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to watch what you guys are doing in the gaming space specifically, because I think NFTs in particular have such a use case there. I mean, it's going to absolutely explode. In our ecosystem, we have companies like CryptoFights and Haste, and they're actually, gaming is 98% of the activity on the BSV blockchain right now, just gaming. It's insane. So many transactions per day. Yeah. But this is we're making progress, Lloyd, I think.
Yes, slowly. I mean, I think the explosion is happening probably outside of gaming more than gaming, as we call it. I just call it iGaming, right?
Yeah,
outside of iGaming or gambling.
Yes.
Yes. For now, but I think the time will come. But I just think it's going to take a bit more time.
Yeah, and I think it's a good message for our audience to keep an eye on what the gaming world is up to, because they're really taking off with NFTs and lots of other really cool innovation. Lloyd, thank you so very much. Like I said, you are one of my go-tos when it comes to blockchain in the gaming world, meaning online gambling and gaming.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you sharing your expertise today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Becky. No, appreciate it. Cheers.
Lovely. Thank you guys so much for watching Hashing It Out. This is Becky Liggero. Thanks for watching.